Good morning. I want to invite the teachers, school teachers of Virginia Beach and Tidewater churches to join me up here. We're going to have a panel discussion. So if you're one of the teachers in those two churches, please come up here and join me. Am I going to have anyone join me here, or do I have to do this myself? No, come up here and join me. Do we have any Tidewater Church Sabbath school leaders, teachers? Okay. Is that, yes, and I can head up here then, right? Okay. Well, happy Sabbath and good morning.
Good morning.
1 year ago, huh?
Yeah.
You've been here. And I was telling Pastor Miller that he visited us about 6 years ago when we were visiting, when we were renting. And a lot has changed, Pastor Miller, and we'll know, I'm going to brag about it more second service. My name is MAH00021, and this is Elder Daphne Freitko. She is in charge of the Sabbath School's teachers, and she had asked me to lead out. And there are others here, but they must be too shy to lead out. Our Sabbath School lesson is in, we're studying 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. And if you are a student of Pauline letters, Pauline history of St. Paul, this is probably one of the best. They're all good, but this is one of the best. And this one I'm seeing very pertinent to the Virginia Beach in the Tidewater Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, I'm not going to speak for Tidewater, but I can speak for Virginia Beach. When you read Thessalonians, put down Virginia Beach and see how will that affect you. Let's see, Mike, right? He is visiting with us from Virginia Beach. He lives in Virginia Beach. He wants to celebrate our 1st anniversary. Are there other visitors who are not members of each church? Lisa, please introduce them.
This is Adrienne, Lisa is Sunny from Richmond.
From Richmond. So, are they related to you? Friends. That was a trick question. The answer is yes, we're sisters in Christ. Okay. Welcome. Anyone else? Any other visitors from either church? Okay. Here. I just want to read to you the introduction that I have on 1 Thessalonians. This is from the New International Version. Paul started the church at Thessalonica on his second missionary journey. He taught there for about 3 weeks, but then had to leave because the Jews were opposing him so strongly. But hearing from Timothy about the conditions in Thessalonica, Paul wrote this letter from Corinth to encourage the Thessalonians and to teach them more about Christianity. Paul begins by praising the Thessalonians for being brave and not giving up their faith. In spite of severe sufferings, he instructs them how to live in order to please God. And he teaches them about Jesus' second coming. He explains that the time of Jesus' coming is secret, so they should keep working hard until he comes. Let's bow our heads before we continue. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this beautiful year. We thank you for your members. We can worship together as we study Paul's letter from you to the Thessalonians. Help us to apply it in our lives today in Virginia Beach. In your name we pray.
Amen.
Sister Daphne, in the memory text, please. And then give us your perspective.
just as we have been approved by God to be trusted with the gospel, so we speak, not to please men, but to please God, who tests our hearts.
What does that mean?
To me,
How does the hope? Okay.
For me, it means, thus said the Lord. Because I think at this time we are having a problem in the churches.
Including Virginia Beach?
Yes. And people are afraid to say, thus said the Lord. They feel it is something of the past. And we have to think of making people feel good. So, I love this memory text. Because Paul was beaten for speaking the truth. He was put in prison for speaking Jesus. And with all of that, he said, but just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak, not to please men, but to please God and test our hearts. Amen.
Okay. Let me propose then that there's responsibilities that Paul was talking about. Okay. He was approved and trusted by God. He was telling the Thessalonians. That's why you have to listen to me. And last week we talked about that's why you have to follow me, be like me, right? Okay. And then he was doing this to please God. Would that lead to being perfect, to perfection?
Not in his own strength.
Right. Okay. Paul was always dependent on the strength of Jesus Christ. Okay. But then the definition is perfection is being accepted by Jesus Christ.
It's not our perfection, I think we will be accepted by Jesus, but it's by accepting his perfection.
Right. He accepts us, and so by accepting his perfection, then we become perfect like him. Okay. It's just like when you see a baby. When my sons were born, they're 33 and one will be 29 now. You know what you do when the baby comes out? I was in the birthing room both times, right? You count 10 toes and 10 fingers. They're perfect. Okay? I say that all the time, but there might be people who don't know that. And so this is what Jesus is looking at us is, yes, they've accepted my perfection, so therefore they are perfect. Okay. And then also it talks about the ministry. Paul's ministry was always be pleasing to God. Paul was less concerned with growing the church in numbers than with its growing through God's grace in the right spiritual principles. So it's quality.
Quality and not quantity.
Quantity, right. So we don't have to be a super church, but we can be a church of 4 or 5 as long as we're following Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even though our mission, the mission of the church is to grow the church, is to expand God's kingdom. But our emphasis should not be only on that. It should be on the quality of the doctrine that we are putting forward there, and not to be men pleasers so that we can have a whole church. There is no sitting place, standing place, but then it's not according to the will of God.
So then an example of having a good church is if people sit up front instead of the back.
No.
No. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. And Monday's lesson. No, that's Sunday's lesson. Boldness in suffering. 1 Thessalonians 2:1 and 2. Okay. You know, brothers and sisters, that our visit to you was not without results. We had previously suffered and been treated outrageously in Philippi, as you know, but with the help of our God, we dare to tell you His gospel in the face of strong possibilities. Okay, please, what does that mean?
Well, it means exactly what he said, because he was coming from Philippi where they were beaten there, they were treated very unfairly there. And here now they are in Thessalonica, and they were brave enough still to stand up for the gospel. Right. Maybe in my case, I would have said, well, I am not going to be beaten here. Nobody's going to, ill-treat me for presenting the gospel again, but Paul had no fear because he was willing to suffer for the gospel.
Paul and Silas were beaten and sent out, and they walked from Philippi to Thessalonica. And the lesson brought out that every step was painful, but they went ahead and trudged along. It's not like they got into their car. Yeah, to me, suffering is when my car did not have air conditioning. Okay? Yeah. But Paul had to walk, and every step was painful. But he followed God's calling. Okay? And then it says in Acts 16, it's similar. See, we know the history of Paul's suffering in Acts. The Thessalonian letters was because of the suffering. In review of Acts 16, it says that Timothy joins in the missionary trip. That's verses 1 through 5. And then there was this preparation for Macedonia. Remember, there was a call, come over to Macedonia and help us. On the way to Macedonia, they stopped and Lydia was baptized. Lydia was a follower of God. But Paul visited her and gave her Bible studies, so that she also became a follower of Jesus Christ and was baptized. Then they were put in jail in Philippi, but this big earthquake and their chains came off, but so instead of escaping, no one escaped. And that impressed the jailer, who was ready to kill himself. And the jailer wanted to know what was it with Paul that he and the prisoners did not escape, and he wanted that same experience. And he was also baptized. So even though Paul was suffering, he was still successful because he was suffering for Jesus Christ. Right here, yes. That highlighted one.
But in the midst of their pain and suffering, God was saying to Paul and Silas, be bold, be strong. So they began to be bold, and that is Thessalonians 2:2. And in spite of the likelihood that persecution would rise again, there was a strong and visible contrast between their human condition and all the frailties that come with it, and their empowerment by God. In the end, the Lord uses these outward circumstances for His glory.
Well, I would like to ask a question. Are there examples of us here that you feel mimic or very closely related to what Paul has and Silas have done? Any experiences or any examples that you can feel would be similar or close so that we can understand what Paul went through? Have any of us been persecuted lately? So we haven't been persecuted lately.
At least 4 of us were physically.
Physically, right, all right. Okay. But, you hear stories about, and it hasn't happened. I haven't heard too many stories about people who had a choice of keeping the Sabbath or their jobs.
Yeah, they are.
But I haven't heard many lately, right? Remember we used to? And to me, that would be the closest to being persecuted in my lifetime. But, so I guess, should I feel blessed that I haven't been persecuted? Or do I feel like I'm missing out on something?
You have to ask yourself, am I living the lifestyle that deserves persecution?
Oh, I don't want to ask that.
Because it was Paul's lifestyle that caused him to be persecuted.
Right. Okay. But you brought up a good point. If I'm not being persecuted, why am I not being persecuted?
Because the time isn't here as yet.
Okay. Well, I don't think any one of us go every day and ask God, said, please let me be persecuted. I don't remember praying that in the last week at all. But we always pray that God be bless us.
You ever pray for faith? More faith?
You know what? I need to. I'm not going to answer that question, but I need to. Okay, why do you say that?
Because when you pray for more faith, it's like praying for persecution. Because how could your faith become strong if it's not tested?
So by asking for having a blessed day, a safe day, and a faithful day.
Well, that's a different thing, a faithful day.
Okay.
You're asking the Lord for greater faith. Ask the Lord to strengthen your faith, greater faith. Our faith can only become stronger by testing. And how would it be tested?
Well, the more I read Thessalonians, and the more I read about Acts, and as you had just said, I thought when I was a student of Paul, I read, I was like Paul, but I don't want to live like Paul did. I don't want to be persecuted, but I want the glory of being with Jesus Christ. Okay. Any comments?
Well, I don't know, I can't remember reading it in the Bible, but I know it's a very familiar saying, no cross, no crown. So I don't know how you really want to enjoy the glories with the Lord without suffering for Him, because suffering and then glorification.
Well, even in the New Testaments, when John and James, the sons of Zebedee, when they asked to be glory, they did not realize that that meant that Jesus was being hung on the cross. Any comments, Doctor? Yes, here for me. I'm sorry, I'm getting a mind blank here.
You said you have never been persecuted, but have you done what Paul has been doing?
You know, I don't like your questions. You know, I thought I have, but to me, I don't expect to be persecuted like Paul, physically. But, you know, can you give an example? Dr. Lucadina, see, I remember his name now. See, you ask a question, so you have to answer your question.
Okay, in the Philippines,
You want to come up here?
no. In the Philippines, I was in school, and when we have those evening worship service, suddenly there's a storm. Nothing at the galvanized school.
Please use the microphone.
I think that is persecution.
Okay. You call that persecution? And you're the one if Lord, you asked me if I was persecuted like Paul. If that, well, I've been persecuted like that before. Getting wet. Okay. But you know, remember, God promised us that we will only be tried as much as we can endure with His help. So the reason I'm not being persecuted like Paul is I won't be able to endure it. Okay? I haven't been persecuted like that. Okay. Well, right, that's right, because when we are given the trials, the Holy Spirit and God will take care of us. Okay. But let's go to pleasing God. I'm sorry, I print this out, so I didn't have the days. Pleasing God, is that the next one? Or what's the next one?
The next one is the character of their
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, on Monday we have the character of the apostle. And there is something here that Paul did while he was in Thessalonica. And that he refused to be helped by the brethren. He refused to be a burden to them.